Good evening. Welcome. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2019. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Good evening. We have just come from executive session. We have not adjourned executive session. We will be going back after our business meeting. And we're going to start tonight with comments from the board. Cynthia, you want to start?
Well, I can't believe it's already, we're into March and spring is coming. I'm sure the kids are like getting spring fever. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the play is this week for the middle school, high school. And they're usually a great performance, so come out and support.
Rob?
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for the good turnout. This is better than usual. And for those paying attention at home, I wanted to start the evening. Well, I'd like to make a statement because there's a lot going on, and it's been bothering me, and I spend countless nights staring at the ceiling and thinking about it. So I want to just read a statement that I put together. Kind of summarizes my time on the board, finishing up my third year. So I feel it's important to share some thoughts with the public. After contemplating what to do for many months, as I mentioned, I have been very reflective. The work of a board member is to represent the children, the district, and the community by working on policy, the budget, and overseeing the governance of the district as a whole. These tasks seem pretty straightforward, but it takes many hours and a lot of time. It's a significant commitment and something that I take very seriously. Currently, I think the district finds ourselves at a very important crossroads. Therefore, I decided that I would like to remain a part of it, and I intend to run again for the board in May. That being said, I feel that it's time where the community of the board, the administration, the faculty, the CSEA, and all of our staff, we need to align our thoughts and vision and create the most successful outcomes for the three significant initiatives we currently are in the midst of. The 1920 budget, which we'll talk about tonight, the capital project, which is going to begin over the summer, and then our new strategic plan. I believe that there must be public discussion on the proposed budget and some of the new proposals. The public input and discussion will go a long way in determining the final proposed budget, which will be out for vote in May. It's nice to see some people here. One of the fellow members of our Budget Audit Committee is here as well. So I'm happy to see that. The prior board, the current superintendent, the financial staff have done a great job of being fiscally responsible over the last 4 to 6 years. I think that's why we find the district in the position it is financially. They have set us up to add enhancements, consider new proposals with curriculum, professional development, along with faculty and staff upgrades and additions. I know some of those are not popular, that they think maybe we're overstaffed, we have too many administrators. But I think if you're paying attention, you'll understand the importance of such. Our very exciting capital project is about to commence, and some of you may have already seen things starting to be staged on the Cottle Field. This has been a 2 or 3 year endeavor, and participation and discussion from the public is always encouraged. It was a big part of how we got to where we are today with the project. And lastly, the new strategic plan and its 4 main goals, which are up for approval tonight, is extremely exciting. This plan is also the result of great work from our prior board, staff, administration, and superintendent for putting the district in position to propose a plan focused on our children, centered on curriculum, professional development, and modern-day learning. Once again, a process which had great community involvement to get to this point, but will need ongoing work from the staff and the administration to create action plans necessary to allow our district the opportunity to reach the next level. In order to achieve these goals, I strongly believe we need to galvanize, have healthy discussion, support our leadership and superintendent to see these projects through and provide optimal results for our children and the district. The decisiveness, rumor mill, innuendo, and misinformation in the community must stop for us to achieve the best for our children, district, and the community. The board has 2 public monthly meetings, a business meeting and a workshop. And in order to be successful, the district needs to have the community speak to the board and participate in public discussion for all the board members to participate in. Transparency must improve from all interested parties in order for us to be successful. We should share ideas and opinions, move forward together for what is best for our children and the community. We must be able to reach compromise. Differences in opinion are healthy. They often lead to great discussion, and that needs to start happening publicly more frequently. One example, which is actively the scuttlebutt in the public, which need to be addressed and no longer could be ignored. No action is not acceptable, and that is in regards to the National Junior Honor Society. Last year, I believe personally that the board overreached regarding the program. It is not the board's place to influence the outcome of any particular program, its standards. Our responsibility is to see that the policy is followed. If lacking, the policy may be in need of some adjustments. We certainly should propose change for the future. That being said, I would like to see the National Junior Honor Society be reinstated for this school year and going forward. I will vow for the rest of my term, and if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected in May, to not overreach as a board member in affairs that are not board-related, such as grades, honor society, and other student-teacher activities. The board's responsibility is in governance, budgeting, and policy, not investigations and scoring methodologies. For the sake of our students, I hope we can reach compromise and have the program launched for the remainder of this year. In closing, to reiterate, I believe it's an important time for the district, and I want to encourage participation from the public and move more toward compromise, transparency, and working together. Our district has no interim titles for the first time in a long time, and the stability and the opportunity for our superintendent and his team to lead us to the next level on all these initiatives in our district, I believe will provide us the best opportunity for a successful outcome on all fronts. Thank you for allowing me to express my concerns, and I apologize for jumping on the meeting.
Okay. Daj?
Hello to everyone. I guess the best thing to say is thank you for saying a lot of the things that you just said. Probably wasn't easy to come out publicly and say that, but as a board member, fellow board member, I thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Pete?
Well, it's funny that you said that, Rob, because I was actually going to say something along the same lines in the sense of all the important things that are happening right now in the district and how this is a really good time for people to pay attention and get involved. Rob hit on the 3 main ones: the capital project, the strategic goals, and the budget. So if you were going to pay attention any time of the year, this is the time to do it. And we definitely need more input and more involvement and more just more interest and more involvement for sure. So I was going to make that same point. Appreciate your comments, Rob. I don't agree with your point about the overreach on the National Honor Society. I don't think that's accurate, but that's your opinion. I just want to make my opinion clear on that as well. Other than that, I'm glad you're running again. Good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I just want to add to that, Rob, also it's, fine to announce that you're running, but it's also a reminder to all the board members that we can't use this platform to basically, campaign for ourselves or use this time. So I just want to, and it's fine, and I didn't stop you, but I just want to use that as a reminder.
Yeah, I wasn't campaigning. I've been asked publicly, so I wanted to let people know who I don't see often.
That's fine.
I think I have the right to say that.
I didn't say that you didn't have the right to say it. I just wanted to remind the whole board that this is not the forum for that. So that's fine. I also will also say that I do disagree, and I do think that what has happened with the example of the National Honor Society is really not an example of overreach, but an example of what we have, and you also have been a part of this board that has wanted to be an open and extension to the community, that when there are concerns that we have been open and wanted that. So in one hand, it's, to say we want your feedback, we want your input, we want to hear from you, and then when we hear things to say, oh, okay, that's, we're not going to listen to you. The concerns that came to the board, as you know, and the rest of the board knows, specifically were and it's difficult for us because we're in a position where we can't say everything, but they were specific to matters that did concern the board and concerned me, because really our job is to advocate for all of the students.
Of course
and
it is.
that's exactly what happened. And if
all of
parents
us were
feel-
not involved in
if-
that discussion.
If parent, well,
And
it
it
was
wasn't, all the information was not shared, so that is not an accurate statement.
okay. Well, that's a difference of opinion.
Hmm.
And if there's something you feel that you didn't get, I didn't hear you ask. So if there's something that you feel you have not gotten, then please ask it in the appropriate manner. But to speak, that's your opinion, and I'll have mine. And I'm going to say that really, I feel that the community should feel that they should be able to say things and not feel that they should be retaliated against. And I think that is what has happened here. And that's exactly what everything I do not stand for. I feel
Why
that...
haven't we replied to them for almost 2 months?
Reply to who?
Nothing's happened.
Okay.
What's the delay? What's the holdup?
We have reached out. We've had meetings. We've reached out to the union, and the position has been posted. As you know, the entire board is in support of the position being filled. It's been posted since last year. So everybody on this board and our administration is in support of the program.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, I think we all know what the public believes, and
No,
I think
don't
even
speak.
if even
No.
if you have to. Even if
You
you
can
have
speak
to
for
admit
what
there
you
was
believe,
a
but you
mistake
can't
in order to do what's in the best interest of children, you should do that occasionally. It doesn't hurt anybody. We could easily get this program back up and running by just
Okay, I
mea
just
culpa
kind of want to
and
say
move
something
forward.
in regards to, it is not within our power or our role to actually make decisions like that. As a board, we look at policy, we make decisions based on recommendations when they come to us. So in regards to that, that is strictly a building level decision. From what I understand, we don't have any authority over that unless we make a board policy on it. So I would like to clarify that in regards to the role as the board. And that's not our role, to tell the administration what to do. That is a day-to-day building.
I don't think
situation.
anyone was looking for anybody to tell anybody what to do.
No, I'm just trying to
They were
clarify our
looking
role.
for people
That's all.
to speak honestly about what happened and what transpired in order to do what's in the best interest of our children.
And I think we would all have to agree
So we
that
could easily
all
do
want
that and move
program.
forward. Then let's do what we're supposed to do
That's
in
not
we
in
have
order
our
to
done
get
what
it
we're
done.
supposed to do.
It's not in our
And as
control.
you know, that the program has to be run by the teaching staff.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's not in
Otherwise,
our
I'm sure it'd be
control.
up and running by now if that wasn't
Okay.
the case. Okay. I did have a few comments to make as well, and actually it's regarding the budget process. A few weeks ago, I attended a meeting at Assemblywoman Amy Pauling's office, and it was sponsored by the Westchester Putnam School Board Association, of which we are a part of. And it was basically all of the districts under Amy Pauling's area, and so it was Scarsdale, Pelham, Eastchester. We were there, Tuckahoe, and it was a very interesting conversation about the state budget and what the governor has proposed in the state budget, and how it affects us locally, and what are the issues that we are most concerned about. And it was really a very, very good meeting. And then I did see just last week that Eastchester School District has put out, and I saw it on Facebook, like on the maybe some others have seen it. It's on the Eastchester Moms and Dads page, and it's being shared amongst their community. And they actually they are out advocating for more foundation aid. And I also know that our district has been shortchanged in foundation aid, and that is one of the top concerns. And so I, too, would like to do something similar here. I do think as a community, we need to advocate more for more state aid for our fair share. It is true that Bronxville gets more foundation aid than we do at Tuckahoe, and that's just not fair. So we really need to do a better job of that. And I actually had Lauren make a copy for the board, and I'll share with the board members, of basically what all the proposals are, what the issues are, what the governor's stand is, what the Senate stand is, what the Assembly stand is, and what the council, which is the council that we all belong to, and what our stand is. And I think we really, as a community, must come together. I also did share with Amy Pauling that I was very saddened to see that there was not one initiative from the governor's office on school safety. that no dollar, not $1, was being advocated for school safety. And we all know in our community it's very important to us. We know firsthand how it has affected families in our community and other school districts, and I really think that it's a shame because we have on our budget that we are proposing for a school resource officer. It has been recommended by the committee that Carl put together by both police chiefs from both Tuckahoe and Eastchester. Both police chiefs are in strong support of a school resource officer, but there is no funding from the state for this. And that it's not even coming from the governor's office, I think is a shame. So I don't want to get onto, and quite honestly, nor from the Senate nor from the Assembly. There were many proposals last year on school safety that just went nowhere. Amy Pauling was very good to myself, and I went actually to see her with Allison Halloran. We spoke to her honestly about our concerns in our district, and she promised that she would do what she could to bring some aid to us. So, I have faith that, that she believes in it, but it's very difficult, as we all know, what happens in Albany. So I just want to put together something. I don't really know. I'm going to need Lauren. You're going to have to help me here, and we're going to have to get something out to our district. And I don't think it's that difficult to do, but now that it's all electronically, years ago we used to ask for literally letter writing campaigns, and honestly, it's a lot to ask for people to do that. But right now it's all electronic. It's not so hard to do. And I really think we need, as a community, to get behind that and really get our fair share of what we need. I mean, it's really unfair, all the state mandates that come down to us. We want all to do as much as we can for our students. And as we know, there's a 2% tax cap, and it makes it very difficult. So I'm asking the community to please be on the lookout for that. I hope we can get it together as soon as possible and really get across to our state legislators what we need here in Tuckahoe and what's important to us, especially this time of the year. And you know what? If we don't get it this year, then we just keep on doing it. So that's what I'm asking the community to look forward to participating in. And we'll talk more about these things when we go over the budget with Lee tonight. Okay, Carl?
Sure. I would just, good evening, and it is nice to see a group of community members here this evening. We appreciate that. First, let me just start with a couple of student recognitions. At the middle school level, we are extremely proud of our Science Olympiad team. They competed. It was a snowy morning. They powered through, and they got here to school. We saw them off. They competed at Scarsdale Middle School. There were 30 students with our advisors, and they did exceptionally well. Out of 35 teams that competed in over 20 events, they earned overall 10th place, and we are very proud, and congratulations to all those students for all of their fine efforts. Also, I want to congratulate our middle and high school students who performed at SUNY Purchase College in the prestigious All-County Chorus concert. We had elementary, intermediate, and high school levels, and again, congratulations to all of those students. Many of them you will see in the play that Cynthia mentioned. Let me just give a little plug for Good Man Charlie Brown, which is this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you haven't, at 7:30 p.m. here at the high school, if you haven't gotten your tickets, certainly we hear the rehearsals. The board heard them behind my office this evening, and they sound outstanding. And I think it's going to be a great play, so please join us. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to our boys varsity basketball team. They had an amazing season. They are Class C section champs, and they made it all the way up to the regional championship. Although they did not win, they played with integrity, they played with heart, and for everyone that got a chance to witness the game, we were all very proud of them. Great role models, and again, congratulations to those athletes. Beyond that, I do have some comments that I will integrate into my budget presentation, Michelle, so I'll pause here.
Okay. Lee?
I'll also wait and
on your budget presentation. Okay. Comments from the PTA, Tara?
Let me apologize in advance for how long this is and me
That's
reading
okay.
notes, but we've been so busy here, so I have quite a bit to report. Tara Zegers from the Tuckahoe PTA president. So our Community Service Committee put together a wonderful week of activities before the break for Random's Acts of Kindness Week. We had a Make a Senior Smile Monday, and the Cottle kids decorated cards for seniors who, in a true act of community collaboration, sent back to us a number of bookmarks that we're going to be using for upcoming events, including an upcoming book swap. The elementary students also decorated some snack bags, and a drive took place at the middle school to collect items of need for the homeless community. And those bags are going to be packed up and given to Lifting Up Westchester, which is a nonprofit that supports the homeless community. They also decorated cards that are going to be donated to United for the Troops, which is another nonprofit that sends care packages to troops overseas. After the break, the students came back, and it was Building Bridges Week. Now in its 5th year at Cottle, the program was well received as over 50 volunteers, including some from our high school, helped the Cottle students learn about persons with different abilities. There were assemblies at every grade level, and we really thank our Tuckahoe High School student panel who so bravely came to talk to our 5th graders about their learning disabilities, always the highlight of my year. PTA also this past Saturday, with the help of the district and Mr. Albano, hosted the National Scholastic Chess Federation's Grand Prix tournament here at the middle school for elementary students from throughout Westchester County. Some things coming up. March 20th, we have our ever popular Taste of Tuckahoe coming in, and we'd like to thank all of the local businesses who have partnered with us to help us feed the students and teachers at the middle school and the high school. On March 22nd, our Books and Bites program has started at Cottle, where students are participating in book clubs with parent volunteers, and on the 22nd, there'll be an author visit and a book swap for that. We also just began a new program called Girls on the Run, which is both here at Cottle and at the middle school. This is a girls running club that meets weekly, and they're going to participate in a 5K at SUNY Purchase in June. This is our first time doing this program, and the group's filled up within minutes, so we're really looking forward to potentially expanding this offering in the fall if that goes well. Our Curious on Hudson Spring session is about to begin at Cottle with another great round of STEAM extracurricular activities being offered after school. Coming up this week on the 26th, there is a program that we encourage all parents and all middle and high school children to attend. It's called 10 Seconds Can Change Your Life Forever. The speaker is Bobby Petroselli, and he's going to talk about his wife who was killed by a drunk driver. This is at 7:30 here in the Tuckahoe High School auditorium. And the program was made possible by a grant that we were able to obtain from the Community Fund. So we thank the fund very much for helping us provide such a worthwhile program. We have our annual Science Fun Day at Cottle on March 30th, and registration for that is out on Schoolbee. And last but not least, the PTA Spring Social is on April 5th at the Bronxville Field Club. Invitations have gone out. We have a lot of new fun stuff planned for this year. And to our community, we have offered some sponsorship opportunities to help us offset the costs this year. And we're looking for local businesses to help us with that. It's a good chance for businesses to both market themselves, but also help us support the many, many activities, as you can hear, that we organize here in Tuckahoe throughout the year. And there's also lots of opportunities for donations as well. So invitations have gone out. You should be able to find information about the Spring Social on Schoolbee, on the Tuckahoe School website. And anybody can always find me online and email me, and I'll be happy to hook them up with the right people. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tam. Okay, School Foundation, anybody? Okay, this is now the first recognition of the audience, and this is for comments from anything that is on the agenda for tonight. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
If you could just give us your name and...
Yep. Let me get my name's Paul DeFucci. I live in the village of Tuckahoe on Winslow Circle. First off, is this working? I want to thank everybody for their service. Okay. I know a couple of you, and I always tell you I don't envy your position, but I do have a few words. I didn't prepare anything. I was back. My wife told me to show up for moral support. But after hearing the discussion, I thought I should say a few words. I'm just a casual observer. Whether or not it's overreach or not, it's not my issue. I think Rob put it best. We got to look forward. How do we fix it? My son wants to be on the Junior Honor Society. I know that. I sent an email, talked to the principal of the middle school myself. I know that. Everybody here is leadership, whether it's the boards or not, or whether it's you as a superintendent that has direct responsibility or not. It needs to be there. I don't want to know what is going on or what isn't. We have to fix it, period. That's what I see. I'm a casual observer, don't know the details, don't want to know the details. Has to be fixed. It's shameful, shameful, shameful that we don't have it. That's period. It's your job to fix it. Let's get it fixed. Thank you again for everything.
Thank you, Mr. DiFucci. Okay. Anybody else?
Hi. Tara Denning, 25 Stebbins Avenue. I just kind of want to reiterate what Paul said. We don't want to be interested in the politics. We want what's best for our kids. We have students, not just our own, throughout the district who are working hard academically. That's what this school is here for, academics first and foremost. The children who are working the hardest in the middle school are not being recognized this year. The students who start down at Cottle volunteering and learning all these wonderful things through our PTA are not being recognized for service to others and service to our community. I don't know what the answer is, but we need to fix it.
Agreed. Thank you, Tara. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, are we doing the presentation, the budget presentation?
Okay, so this is a bit of an awkward setup here with the podium facing one way and our audience here. So I will stand to the side and go through the budget presentation. So we have a two-part presentation. I always begin with a narrative and talking about the goals of the district and what we're trying to accomplish through this year's, or through next year's budget, that we are presenting this evening. I did an initial presentation with Lee Liu, our business official, on March 4th. This is a follow-up. The goals have not changed. However, the financials have changed. But I will go through this a little more quickly than I did on the 4th, because many people may have heard this presentation, and this is also posted on the website. But let me begin by just saying that the budget is aligned with our new strategic goals for the district. About in January, I believe it was late January, 23 people assembled at Concordia College for 2 full days to work on the 4 strategic goals that you see posted here this evening. The first one is social emotional learning. The second one is diverse learners. The third one is contemporary teaching and learning. And finally, professional learning for our staff to support the other 3 initiatives. The group that met was very thoughtful. We analyzed data. We looked at the feedback from nearly 1,200 surveys from parents and students and professional staff in this community and our civil service staff. We were very thoughtful about the process. Although that may not look like 2 full days of work from 23 people, that is what this represents. It was a very thoughtful process. Also, Cynthia Tate and Rob Seifert gave up 2 days to join us, and we appreciate that. And we believe that these are the 4 goals that will guide our district forward in moving ahead. What follows is just to talk about some more specifics of how the budget will support us working towards those goals. So these are just highlights. The budget basically encompasses many things in all of our programs and all of our staffing, but enhancements for next year that we are proposing. First, I will start with a guidance counselor, social worker, K-12. So this is an additional support staff New York State is requiring us to have guidance instruction, and in our elementary school right now, there is no guidance counselor, and we do not have guidance instruction. We envision this position about 50% down at the elementary level and about 50% at the secondary level, a person who can push in and deliver guidance, developmentally appropriate guidance instruction to our students, as well as support students and families district-wide. The next bullet is social emotional learning. This budget will support our initiative moving towards better social emotional learning. We do an awful lot in the district, but there is more to do, and this is a state initiative as well as one of our district's main goals. Also, PD, we believe, needs to be increased. We've done some very robust professional development over the past few years, but we believe we can do more, and if we are going to set rigorous goals for the district, we do need to support that by training our staff and supporting them. The last bullet here, the computers in the district, we've gotten the most out of them. They are approximately 10 years old. Dr. McDonald, correct me if I'm wrong. They are at end of life. We're on Windows 7, which is being phased out. It won't be supported anymore. So I think we've gotten our money's worth, but we do need to replace all the desktop computers in the district, approximately 200, I believe? 269. 269. So this, what we're proposing is to do this through a financing model, which is an IPA, which would be over a 5-year period, paying for those computers throughout the district. They would be installed this summer, along with an upgraded Windows 10. Next, as Michelle mentioned earlier, we have a district-wide safety committee in addition to our building committees, and all unanimously agree that a school resource officer would be a wonderful enhancement to our district. We envision someone working in grades K through 12, becoming familiar with all of our students, not just providing security, but really being part of the educational program. I often point to, at our high school, we have many students who are interested in law enforcement. They're great careers that they could be involved in, and we see this person as someone who could educate our students, potentially have a club, but also providing education as well as safety for our school community. Also, we'd like to maintain, it was not in the budget this year, but we did add morning traffic duty, both at the middle high school from 7 to 8, and then at the elementary school from 8 to 9. Most people know that there is a police officer, a uniformed officer there. The district does pay for that, but it has been very well received. We do all feel comforted when we pull up to school in the morning, whether you're dropping off your children or the faculty, and have that police presence and someone who is also controlling traffic. As the spring weather sets in, we have more children on bicycles, we have more walkers, and just someone who is monitoring traffic safety in the morning is a welcomed addition. The budget includes maintaining that. Also, district-wide, we increased our security monitor staff by 28%. We added some after school at Cottle, some after school at the middle high school. We have one of our monitors here this evening, for example, for this public meeting, as well as a rehearsal going on in the auditorium with our students. So this is something that we believe was a healthy increase. We believe we're not in a position to do this round the clock whenever school is open, from 7 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. But this is a pretty significant increase, and the budget will support maintaining that. And lastly, there's been a number of co-curricular and athletic programs added. We have, for example, girls lacrosse starting this spring. That is all proposed in next year's budget, and we look forward to seeing those programs as they evolve. Many were in their first year this year. As always, we really strive to provide our community with a transparent process. And again, we appreciate the audience coming out this evening. We know everyone's busy, but it is important that people are involved in this dialogue. I presented to the PTA last week, I believe it was, and we appreciate you coming out and paying attention to what we're proposing. The last goal that we've had for some years is to stay within the allowable tax levy. So as Michelle mentioned earlier, there is a tax cap. We're in that environment, and our goal has been never to do an override and hold off as long as possible. There are some that believe, at some point in time, all districts will need to do an override or dramatically start cutting and reducing program. We've added program, we've added staff, and we've always done it by staying within the allowable. These are the enrollment numbers projected. Well, we have on the left side, you have this year's, And on the right side, we have projected enrollments at every grade level, starting with the elementary school. You see very desirable class sizes. We're projecting 20 in kindergarten. That's always a bit of a moving target because children do move in even right up until the opening of school and beyond. In first grade, we're projecting 22 per class in 4 sections. In second grade, 19 per class in 5 sections. Grade 3, 19 per class in 5 sections. Fourth grade, 21 per class in 5 sections. And in fifth grade, a little higher, but still very manageable, 24 students on average in 4 different sections. At the elementary school, you know, we have this exciting STEAM lab. If you haven't seen the virtual tour, please go onto the website. You can take a virtual tour. It should be open. We're projecting it will be open January, February of next school year. But we do need to staff this program with a very experienced, competent teacher in the area of science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We also envision this person supporting teachers. What we've talked about internally is that most of our elementary teachers have expertise in math, ELA, in both. The sciences are not a strong emphasis at the elementary level. We're trying to change that paradigm. We have outstanding programs in the middle high school, but we really believe we need to start this earlier with our youngest children. The curiosity is there. Hands-on science is something that we're striving for here, and we need to support that. Also with materials, supplies, equipment, again, science should be hands-on, not just learned from a science book or a science journal. Next, this is related to the guidance counselor, but implement a comprehensive developmental school guidance counseling instructional program in grades K through 5. That will be a push-in program going into each and every class and something that's developmentally appropriate for our students. Also, we need to increase adaptive phys ed. That is something that we've identified a need with particular students, so we're adding just a part of a teacher. I think it's a 20% increase with a phys ed teacher. Also, the Diversity Club at Cottle is a very successful program. They're doing amazing work down there. We'd like to support 2 sections of that program. And then finally at Cottle, increasing the PD budget to really support robust SEL curriculum alignment as well as PD. At the middle school, you see the enrollment numbers. This year, we do have some large classes. Some of the largest grade levels are at the middle school currently. In grade 6 for next year, we project there will be approximately 22 students per section. In grade 7, approximately 24 students per section, and in grade 8, approximately 25 students per section. A little higher on average than the elementary level, but as students mature, we do believe these are still very desirable class sizes. At the middle school, we are adding math labs. The thinking behind this is that at Cottle, on an average, our children will receive about an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes of math instruction daily. But at the middle high school, we are in 48-minute periods. So there's a drop-off in total math time, and we believe that in the transition year, we should add some math time and have a lab period, which is an additional 48 minutes per week for our students to help them with that transition. So that is the first bullet. The second one are maintaining STEAM courses this year. We have STEAM courses in grades 6, 7, and 8. There's some amazing work happening. This is an alignment. I was in a class watching students create Leonardo da Vinci models from plans that he created. The hands-on and the level of engagement was outstanding. So that will be supported and continue. Also, we have 2 new electives this year, geography and world events. And then a 7th grade literature class, which we will maintain. Also, we'd like to increase the level of GEO advisors by adding 2 additional stipends. We do believe that our students need to be more actively involved. This came from our new principal, Mr. Stiefel, who really has some great ideas for student participation in student government. You also may recall last year we added a GEO down at Cottle. So there's an alignment all the way through, and we'd like to support that. Also, this is something that we've done for many years, but not every year. We think late bus transportation ought to be there. Our teachers give 1 hour per week after school of extra help. but some of our students may not be able to access that wonderful resource, so a late bus will enable all students to access the extra help after school. At the high school, because we don't really go by grade level, there's much more student choice. But just to give you an idea of enrollment at our high school, overall there is an increase because there is a small graduating class and there's a larger incoming 9th grade class. But next year, our 9th grade will have approximately 80 students. In grade 10, we project 75 students across the grade level. Grade 11, 63, it's the smallest grade level. And our seniors next year will have 89 students. These are the AP offerings at the high school. There was a time when we were down to 4 APs. That was after the financial fallout in 07, 08, and that was something that the community just would not accept and should not accept. We have a strong commitment to maintaining these courses. Some of them have a full class of 25, 28 students. Some may only have 8 students. And that's expensive to run a class with only 8 students, but there's a deep commitment to maintaining these. They are important for our students to challenge themselves with the rigor of AP courses. Other enhancements at the high school, remember earlier, overall we expect about 20 to 25 students more, so we do need to add some staffing. We want to add 1 section of chemistry. We want to keep those class sizes manageable, especially in a chemistry lab. That is important for safety as well as for educationally. Also 1 section of global history, honors. Also 2 new elective courses. One is an architecture course that we gauged, or Dr. Linehan and our teachers gauged that there was an interest in architecture. And then the second one, digital art, is a result of a grant that Dr. McDonald facilitated with BOCES, and we have a teacher committed to developing a curriculum, collaborating with other districts, and we'll be implementing a new digital art elective course. Also, we're adding 1 section of strings. We have a thriving strings program. It started at Cottle years ago. Our students moved into middle school and have just wowed us with their performances and their growth. And now that program is moving into the high school, and we do need to add a section to support that. Also, we have 3 extracurricular clubs that we'd like to add at the high school level. One is an audiovisual club. The other is the Advanced Strings Ensemble Club, led by Mr. Duchateau. And the last one is a Pioneer League, which is an athletic program for students with special needs. This budget will support all of that. So now, in summary, the staff, you see 1 full-time guidance counselor, social worker, 1 school resource officer, 1 full-time STEAM technology coach. Again, the person will teach students directly as well as support other teachers in the area of science and technology. 20% of an adaptive phys ed teacher, 20% of a math teacher at the middle school, 20% of that global history honors teacher, 20% of a chemistry teacher, which also is really 1 period. The digital art, the strings, you see the girls modified lacrosse, which again is being piloted this year. 2 hours of the morning traffic duty, as well as a cleaner. We're adding 8,000 square feet, and we intend to keep that as well as the rest of the building pristine, but we do need to increase some staffing to maintain our buildings. This slide shows additional requests. As the budget process progresses, there have been many years that we receive some additional funding out of state ed. We don't always have that number up front. So we always look at things that have been proposed through the budget process, that have come by way of our PPLTs, that have come by way of our administrators and our staff. And these are requests that I think are all very important, or at least the first 2 are extremely important. I think the third is just, it would be a nice thing to do. But I will begin by explaining what an OCED placement is. BOCES, Southern Westchester BOCES, has a campus up in Valhalla, and they have incredible programs that Tuckahoe simply can't offer. So, for example, they have a full commercial kitchen for the students who want to go into culinary careers. They also have an automotive section. They have a full television studio up there for TV production. They have other things as far as people that are interested in working with animals and training and pets and things like that. There's a wide variety of things for students who are not traditional college-bound students. In the past, we've always offered this to our students, but this years back was cut out of the budget simply because it's not required for us to offer this, and it is very expensive. There's a tuition that we have to pay, and in addition to that, we have to pay for transportation. We researched possibly having students transport themselves or carpool, and the district simply paying the tuition, but legally we cannot do that. Our district offers transportation to all, so we must offer transportation, and combined, it equates to about approximately $30,000 per pupil, and that's on top of what we spend per pupil here in our district educating students. We do have a few students attending this program through our special education process. If it's a recommendation from the Committee on Special Education, we do have, I believe, currently 2 students in these programs. However, this proposal is for gen ed students. Again, your students who are not traditionally college-bound students. This has come up many years through our high school administration and staff, a proposal to reinstate some placements. The request was for 5, but certainly the board could consider something less, potentially 2 or 3. It's a 2-year program, so you have to make at least a 2-year commitment to the students. So that is there for consideration. The next item is restoring a 1-loop bus system. So currently we have 2 loops. Our buses, basically, we can run them all day long. We pay one price annually for a bus. Lee, correct me if I'm wrong. And we could have 10 loops. That wouldn't be practical, and we can't do that. However, when you pay for a bus, you pay annually. So as a cost saver, several years back, we did go to a 2-loop system, and the savings is significant. It's about $175,000 per year. And the idea behind that was, okay, although it's not as convenient, that's significant money that can go to program. And there was quite a bit of savings over the past few years, but through PPLTs and through our administration, at every level, all 3 buildings have recommended that we go back and restore a 1-loop system. Traffic, I don't think I need to say too much about traffic here. I think the mornings are better with the police officer, but the afternoons really become complicated. We are in a neighborhood that was not designed for heavy traffic flow. We're landlocked. We have the country club behind us. It is a challenge. We do believe reinstating a 1-loop system, so it would require us to go from 5 buses to 8. It would be an extra $175,000. We do believe it would alleviate some of the traffic issues in the afternoon. Not completely, but we think it would improve, and we've heard from a number of parents who said, well, I pick up my child simply because I don't want them waiting around for 20 or 30 minutes at the end of the day. If there was a 1-loop system, then I would use the school transportation. The last one I put in there, we have 2 signs outside that were donated by the PTA, and we appreciate that, but there's new technology, and the new digital signs can do, the graphics are great, and we can keep them more current and up to date. So we'd love to see new signs. Almost every school in the area has moved towards new digital signs. So that would cost for each building about $25,000 each, a total of $50,000. That is the end of the narrative portion of this. And now I'm going to ask Lou to come up and talk about how we would pay for all this. Okay? And then we'll take questions.
Good evening. There we go. Okay, so Mr. Albano's presented all the different programs that we'd like to maintain and to enhance our district with next year, as well as we have contractual obligations and various other requirements that we have to place into our budget. So we have to take a look at how we might pay for that. The first thing that we have to consider is that this district, as well as every other district in the state, is under the New York State tax cap. That's been in place since 2011, and it applies to all school districts and limits the growth in property taxes that that can be levied by the school district. It's actually two factors that make up our tax cap. The one that's well known is the CPI, or the inflation rate of 2%, is the maximum we can increase, and we have to use the lower of either CPI or 2%, as well as we also get a small growth factor from the state that tells us what we can factor in based on brick and mortar growth in the district. So for this year, again, it's CPI or 2%, whichever is lower. For 1920, that allowable growth factor is 2% because CPI is running about 2.44 over last year. And we get that information of what we're allowed to use from the New York State Department of Tax and Finance. The second growth factor is, as I said, the tax base growth factor. And it's a percentage of which the full value of real property in the district increases due to physical or quantity change over the prior year. There is some lag in that number as well, so it's not exactly what happened last year. There may be a 1 or 2 year lag. For 1920, that factor is 1.0054%. And we multiply that 2% times the 1.0054 to get at what we're allowed to raise our tax levy, and that comes out to 2.55%. And that's before exclusions. Now, there's a long formula that the state gives us where we have to add back, we have to take out payments in lieu of taxes or pilots, we take out our debt payment and our capital outlays, then we apply the growth factors, and we take a look at how that works out. Here's the formula that the state provides us with. We report all those numbers to the state. Some are populated by the state, some we fill in the district's calculations. And when you get to the bottom line, you can see that our maximum allowable tax levy increase in number of dollars is $620,000 for next year, and that equates to a 2.22% increase. There's also the property tax credit relief program that began in 2016. That is a program that reduces the property tax burden for qualifying homeowners. And that means that every homeowner, if they're eligible for the credit, will automatically receive a check from the New York State government. If you live in a district that complies with the New York State property tax cap, you receive either basic or enhanced star, you have an income of under $275,000, and you've paid property taxes in the prior year. So this budget for 1920 was put together with an eye to that as well, and it is compliant as it stands right now with the property tax cap, as it does not go over the tax cap imposed by the state. So to take a look at expenditures, the center column is the 1920 proposed budget, and as you can see, expenditures based on all the different factors that we've been talking about tonight would equate to a $35,532,700 expenditure budget. That's a budget-to-budget increase of $1.5 million, or 4.43%. Some of the main factors that cause the budget to increase are the addition of the guidance counselor / social worker. Salary and benefits would equate to about $120,000. The STEAM teacher plus the startup supplies and materials for the STEAM class would be about $160,000. The 3 different high school teaching positions, 1 period each, equates to 0.6 of a teacher. That equates to approximately $60,000. The professional development increases that are proposed based on the new strategic plan are about $70,000. Now this line, the SRO, I had originally placed in the budget $150,000, but in speaking to the Eastchester School District, as well as realizing that it would be calculated on a prorated basis for 10 months of the year, I believe we can reduce that number to about $125,000. So that number can come down, and we can talk about how to change the budget if the board so chooses. Traffic control to add to the budget next year, since it wasn't in this year's current budget, is costing about $27,000 on top of the cost for the SRO. We've seen a $164,000 increase in pension contributions required, as well as a significant increase in the health benefit line. Our health insurance providers have notified us of a significant increase on July 1st, as well as additional employees, so I'm projecting a $330,000 increase there. I've reduced transfer to capital. That's a line that we budget and then move over to our capital line to work on capital improvements in the district, some of which are highlighted there, including renovations to classrooms and grounds, exterior lighting, masonry repairs, fire alarm systems, security improvements. We put in $100,000 to transfer last year. We're recommending reducing that to $50,000 because this year we're starting our capital project. We're working significantly on the buildings this summer. There wouldn't necessarily be much time to do additional project work, and we will. I recommend we wait to see where we finish the project and then decide where we want to be in future years with transfer to capital. On the revenue side, I'll take a look and show you how we will pay for that, and then we can go back and see where some of the revenue increases are. So on the revenue side, if you look at that center column, that will be our proposed budget for 1920. As you can see, I've increased our tax levy, not the full extent, 2.22. I've increased it 2.20, which provides an additional $615,000 approximately to the district in new revenues. As you know, that I showed in the previous slide that we're looking to increase expenditures by $1.5 million, so we have to see how else we will pay for that in addition to tax levy increase. So we're looking at, for pilots, which are payments in lieu of taxes that some property owners pay to the district, we're looking at a slight increase there, as well as for some sales tax increases in Westchester County of about $2,200. We're looking at 150. I believe there's an error here. I've written, this is what we had last budget presentation, $157,000 for charges for other services. I understand that based on the state has just provided us, I didn't change it, but we did discuss it with the board. It's been a long 2 weeks. But we did receive new information from the state that we can increase our charges for special education tuitions to other districts. So I recalculated what the charges for other services would be, and it's about $142,000, I think is the exact number, that we can increase that number. So I recommended to the board that we do show that number as an increase to charges for services. Total other revenues are increasing about $63,000. State aid is going up about $91,000, and that's based on the governor's proposed budget. It's the middle of March, and we still have not seen what the legislature has countered the governor with yet. They're supposed to have a budget by April 1st. Typically, they tend to raise the allocation to schools after the budget is proposed by the governor. We haven't seen yet what that might be. Then in order to then finally fully finish the budget, we would have to balance it with appropriated reserves. And if we use appropriated reserves of $100,000 from our ERS reserve, as well as right now we're showing $1.9 million, but we can bring that number down with the increase in the charges for other services. That will bring us to a balanced budget of $35,532,700. So this is the number shown last week, but this number has been lowered. And I don't know why that number's up there, but I will put the correct numbers up on the website tomorrow. What we're looking at is $1,873,000, I believe, is the budget gap based on the new revenue that I showed in the previous slide. And that would mean $100,000 from the ERS reserve and about $1,773,000 from the fund balance. The other way we might be able to close the budget gap if we choose not to appropriate reserves would be to look for additional state aid. We still don't know if there will be any. We could reduce expenses, and as Mr. Albano said, we could also consider an override. But right now, we do not have that in the budget. If you look at what we appropriated in previous years, this current year was $1,438,000, and then it varied from year to year. and that does balance the budget and reduces the need to reduce program. In terms of our history of the fund balance, again, here it is going year to year. The yellow highlighted areas are estimates. And for the 18-19 school year, we had planned to appropriate $1,438,000 to balance the budget. However, we were conservative in our estimates for revenue as well as expenses, and we did take in, we're projecting we will take in more than we anticipated in budgeted revenues, and we will not spend as much as we needed to in expenses, so that we will instead cover about $1.2 million of that need to appropriate, and depending on how we end out the year, I'm projecting that we'll either reduce our fund balance by $200,000 or possibly remain flat. Next year, again, if we appropriate the $1,873,000, moving that number down, that would be about a $400,000, $375,000 change in fund balance. Some things we still don't know for next year are what the amount of tax certiorari petitions and judgments will be for the district. The district sees significant tax certiorari's from year to year, and we maintain a tax certiorari reserve of about $3.3 million, which is about 30% of our exposure in tax certiorari's. And because we do negotiate the tax certiorari's through the town and with our lawyers keeping an eye on the negotiations, we typically don't pay the full amount of the request, but we do pay a significant amount. And the board's made a decision in the last several years not to go out and borrow to cover those refunds that we must pay to property owners. So we have been covering those refunds through the tax certiorari reserve. We also don't know the exact staffing levels that will be required next year based on enrollment and new mandates and the number of special education and English language learner students that we may see arrive or currently that we have in the district. And then other unknowns that we never know. Taking a look at the history of the tax levy and the budget, you can see that over the last 5 years, our tax levy increase has always been within the tax cap, and we have a 5-year average of 1.61%. And the budget-to-budget increases have also varied from year to year, even during a time of rising enrollment, and our 5-year average is 2.35%. Here it is graphically. You can see the top straight line is our enrollment growth, and you can see how our budgets have, the dark bar is our budget-to-budget. Actually, the dark bar is our tax levy change, and the lighter bar on the left is our budget-to-budget percent change. And then some important dates to remember are on the 23rd, we will have our Board of Ed budget adoption. May 13th, on the budget adoption, by the way, 4/23 is a Tuesday night. On May 13th, on a Monday night, the public hearing on the adopted budget, and then on Tuesday, May 21st, is the budget vote and trustee election from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And again, there are 2 election districts, so if you need more information on that, contact the district clerk, and please come out to vote.
Okay, before we open up to comments or questions from the board, is there anyone who'd like to make a comment or has a question about the budget and wants to?
Hi, my name's Harry Tucker. I'm on the budget committee, so I have these numbers a little bit before the community, so I got to go over them. And just because I ask a question on something doesn't mean I'm against it. Just want to get more answers. So I want to start with the SRO, School Resource Officer. Can you give us more detail on what the job description is?
Sure. I don't have it in front of me, but school resource officers, it would be a uniformed police officer in the school. And some people assume, okay, it's just added security. It goes beyond that. They will do safety. They'll be part of the building safety teams and the district-wide safety committee. There'll be a liaison between the district, of course, and the police department. They will also teach students. They will go into classrooms. There's internet safety. There's safety with alcohol and substance abuse. And they also, we envision them, in some districts, they have them heading up clubs for students who, again, as I said earlier, may be interested in law enforcement and things such as that. A lot of the job, Harry, is building relationships with our students, greeting them in the morning. Sometimes it's formally in classroom settings or in groups, but also there's the informal piece where they establish relationships and students feel a level of comfort in going to them proactively if they are worried or concerned about something. So that's probably the best summary I can give you, but I also certainly can forward you a job description.
So when they go in to talk about, I guess, maybe some of the things you said, will there be like a curriculum that they follow based on their age?
Yes. They actually go out for training in a very similar way to the DARE officers. You're probably aware that we have a partnership with Tuckahoe, but DARE is only in grade 5 and grade 7. So it's only twice. We would expand upon that and have instruction, and there is a training specifically for them to deliver instruction. They don't just go in class.
So does the current DARE officer leave now, if we have a new one?
The plan would be to maintain DARE. We enjoyed the relationship with 2 police departments. I mean, that's really a luxury that this school district has.
And DARE is funded by a grant from the community fund.
Right. So will the officer be armed?
Yes.
Okay. I guess you'll have an idea of how much time they spend in each school. It's not going to be exactly 50-50, right?
It would probably shift and vary throughout the year, but we see it for the most part, in general, a 50-50 split.
And then I guess the biggest concern that I had was, and I guess Lee talked about it a little bit, that she might lower that estimate for, it's $150,000. So from what I understand is we went to Eastchester and we said we would like the school resource officer, and they said, okay, we're going to hire a police officer and send them to your school, but you have to pay for it. School's not open year-round. School's only open 180 days. Mm-hmm. Who are we paying for him? And the other, so the rest of the time, what's he doing? And is he just going to Eastchester? Now he's a real, not a real cop, but now he's a cop in Eastchester, but we're still paying for it.
Great question. According to Eastchester's contract, police officers work 238 days annually. And we would only have them for 180 student days, and we're also thinking 4 days for when we do our conferences and having them really be integrated and part of the staff. So what the offer is right now from the town is to prorate and not pay that full annual salary, but a prorated rate based on the 184 days. The other days, I'm sure, particularly in the summer, when a lot of people take vacation, the officer would probably assume normal responsibilities through the police department. So that is the idea. But the prorated rate would be base salary as well as benefits.
And we think that's 150, or we're going to adjust that?
We believe 150 would be the full annual salary for an officer. I believe there are 5 steps, so an officer a top step. We are looking for some experience, not just a rookie out of the academy. We think some police experience as well as some life experience would serve them well. So we're thinking, Lee, in the next presentation, I'm sure we'll have this adjusted down to about 125, we said?
120, 125, right.
Okay.
That's a more accurate number.
Of the year.
Since we're on the police, which I love the police, in case they're watching, how come we have, so I drop my son off in the morning, I pick him up in the afternoon, and it seems like in the morning there's a police officer there, but it seems like dropping off is very easy because you could drop off between 8 to 8:30, but at pick up at 3 o'clock, everybody's picking up at 3 o'clock. So anybody think that maybe we should put the police officer in the afternoon instead of the morning? Or both?
We absolutely explored that. Due to their shifts, Eastchester cannot provide us with afternoon dismissal. I agree with you. I think the greater need is probably in the afternoon. However, they're simply not available due to the way the shifts work at the police department. So, for example, the officers you see, Harry, they're coming in 2 hours before their shift begins. They're working with us, which it's overtime, and then they go on to their regular shift. I believe the town has grand total 9 schools between Eastchester and Tuckahoe, and I think there are 8 officers that are on during days. So they try to be a presence and come to us as much as possible at dismissal, but they cannot commit to being here regularly.
Have we talked about making some of the roads maybe during school hours, one-ways, or anything like that? Because it gets bad sometimes. And especially next year, you're not going to have Siwanoy. That's going to be closed off. So all the cars that are double parked along that road, where are they going to go? That's why I'm for the one loop. I don't know how much it's going to help, but I'm sure it'll help a little bit.
Agreed. We are working with the police department. They've been here numerous times analyzing traffic flows. Rich Rosenberg is in charge of traffic, and there's a committee at the town. So, as you know, they're town streets. We have a good working relationship, and they certainly take our input. And as Michelle said earlier, we have 2 Eastchester officers, the chief as well as Lieutenant Hunter, and we also have the chief down at Tuckahoe, both sitting on our safety committee. So I think it's going to require some further discussion, especially with consideration that Siwanoy Boulevard will be closed probably within the next month or so and into next year.
So we're going to have new computers over 5 years. How much is the total that we're going to spend on that?
Lee, I'll defer to Lee Lou on the IPA expense.
It's a total of about $300,000.
You mentioned the social workers mandated.
No. Guidance instruction is mandated. I don't mean to. Why don't you finish your thought?
No, that's what I was going to ask. Is that true? Is it true?
I'm sorry,
because I heard that it's not mandated.
I responded too quickly, Harry. I apologize. Guidance instruction is mandated. A guidance counselor or social worker is not mandated, but we believe it would be the best way to deliver guidance instruction in the classrooms, and that would also occur in the middle school as well.
All right, that's all I have. I'd love to stay, but I have to be somewhere at 9. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the budget? Okay. Anyone from the board? Any comments?
I do.
Go ahead, Pete.
So, Lee, I was kind of hoping we would have a little bit, I know we asked for it last time. I don't know if you could speak to it at all, but sort of a longer out projection on the fund balance, on what we think it's going to look like. I know it's tough to do, but what we think it's going to look like 3, 4, 5 years out. I think Michelle brought it up last time. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I had provided to the board a preliminary review of what that might look like. And if you want, I can just go over that verbally.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lee, you gave it to the committee. I don't think the board
Oh, I'm
has
sorry.
that.
I didn't realize. I apologize then.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did give that. We met with the Budget Advisory Committee last Wednesday, and we did review that with the Budget Advisory Committee. What we found is we're looking at a $1,873,000 budget gap this year.
Right.
That's where we recommend appropriating fund balance to cover that. What I did is I took a look at the major categories and used basic assumptions on what growth would be in those categories, both revenues and expenses, based on historical past trends. And what I found is that the following year, the projected shortfall would be about $1.4 million. That would go down. That would be about $1.5 million in 21-22, and then go down again to about $1.388 in 22-23. So what we're seeing is that from a high of $1.873 next year, we would look at declining but still significant shortfalls, revenues to expenses in the next 3 years. That does take into account the 2% tax cap for tax levies, as well as about a 4% increase on charges for other services for our special ed revenues.
So that's, what you're giving me, though, is the projected deficit, budget deficit, that needs to be covered with fund balance. But the fund balance itself, do you see that on a downward trend? Or do you see that sustaining roughly the same balance that we've had for the last 2 or 3 years?
I think there's a possibility that that could decline, but I think what we also should remember is that each year we typically do conservatively budget revenues and expenses. So although we are projecting those shortfalls to budget, we typically see those smooth out as the year progresses, and we do see additional tuition students in the district as well as underfunding our expenses. So although I do budget conservatively and we look at the most expensive case scenario that we would want to prepare for in the district, most years there's a good opportunity that those budget variances would be close to zero. And what I had said to the Budget Advisory Committee on Wednesday was, I think it would make sense to take a look at where we are a year from now and see if that's the case, if we're continuing to show those surpluses smoothing out those revenue gaps. And
Right.
if we can make a better judgment within a year as to whether that's a trend that will be continuing.
Okay.
Well, I think, Lee,
That's-
I think also what's happened, you mentioned it during your presentation, is last year you were expecting 1.4 million would be appropriated, but where you think we may end up.
It's between zero and maybe -2.
Right. So there's that money kind of comes back to us.
Right, if all things go as they have been historically.
Right.
We have some debt servicing coming off too, but then that's going to kind of be balanced out within the
Right.
budget.
I
With the
didn't
capital
really include
project,
that
yeah.
in the calculations because it is somewhat budget neutral.
So I bring this up because it's my biggest concern about this budget. The budget obviously is all the new things that are being proposed. Obviously support. It's all good stuff. It's all in line, as Paul said, with our goals. I'm not opposed to really anything that's being suggested on its face, but just concerning me a little bit that so much of our budget deficit is being handled by fund balance. And whether or not, being most of these, 95% of these new expenses are recurring expenses that are now going to be year in, year out budgeted expenses, I'm just a little concerned about relying so heavily on a fund balance. I mean, if you're saying that you feel pretty confident, I'm not going to hold you to it, obviously, but that our fund balance is going to maintain its level for the foreseeable future, then I can feel a little better about that. I just want to make sure we're not on a downward decline on fund balance, and yet we keep making up more and more of our yearly budget with fund balance. So that's my biggest concern about the budget.
Well, we will be making up less and less each year of our yearly budget based on my projection over 3 years with fund balance, but it's still significant. And I do believe that we tend to do see those surpluses rather than negative gaps each year. But again, that could change drastically year to year, and I think we should reevaluate. At least if you want to go forward with this budget as proposed, we need to seriously reevaluate in a year whether it's sustainable.
Okay.
I think another thing that we need to consider and maybe have more of a long-term plan for is when we talk about the surplus, it's always coming from additional revenue from special ed tuition. So you're conservative in the number of students that you're budgeting because we don't know exactly year to year. But it seems like the only way to ensure that there will be a surplus is to continually take in more students. And I'm not, sure that is that our long-term plan? Do we have a forecast of the future of how many students we want to maintain in a program? And that always varies because we base that program first on the needs of our students in our district, our own students, and then build a class around the needs of our own students. So there's so many unknown factors there. So really what I'm asking from you, I know it would be difficult for you to tell me, but yet not knowing makes it difficult to make this decision.
Right. I do budget for fewer students than we currently have in the district, for taking into account that some may move out or choose not to, or move into the district and then not be tuition students, or may choose to go to another district. But we also, on the expense side, are very conservative about the cost of the special ed students that the district itself must pay to place out into other programs. So I do have a significant, a good cushion there for students who may move into the district, and we have to be prepared to be able to.
What
pay
their
the
needs
bills.
are, to meet their
So
needs,
if
absolutely.
we don't see that, that also will give us a surplus on that side of the budget.
And I know also in the budget committee meeting, you had said that what the state looks for, or really, is to have a 3% cushion in your budget. So 3% would be how much?
So if you're looking at the budget, it's about $1.3 million. 4% are, we're allowed to keep 4% in an unappropriated fund balance, and that's about $1 million for and change on a $35 million budget. So 3% would be $1.2 million, $1.3 million.
Yeah, because basically we're looking to use $1.8 million, but we don't know if we'll need it.
That's correct.
At $1.3 million would be a 3% cushion,
Right.
which you know what I'm going to say next.
Yep.
I'm more comfortable with that. And, you know, it's tough. Listen, these are all. It's a great budget, right? In terms of how it's meeting the needs and all the things that we're asking for, and the strategic goals that we're going to adopt tonight, and it's all very exciting. It's just that, as Rob said earlier, it's taken years of fiscal constraint to be where we are now. So I am a little nervous.
Yeah, it's exactly right. There's a point where we have to decide, do we want to maybe use some of our fund balance to cover some of these initiatives that we want to push forward? And we all know in finance that's not a sustainable approach to balancing a budget, to continue to use your reserves to balance a budget. So I think that's what we're kind of we're fighting with. Now, we can't always rely on, we may get 100% back from last year, but that's not the way you would put a budget together. So I think that's the risk. We have to plan for next year's budget, but we're not sure where we ended up from this current year.
Lee, you have a
I do
projection
have a
for this
projection.
year.
So for this year, I think we will probably not need to appropriate more than $200,000, even though we budgeted to appropriate $1.4 million. So that's where the surplus fell this year.
So how would we handle that 1.2 million if it was to come back?
We would
So
not appropriate the money from our fund balances.
Which then would leave what available to appropriate versus next year's budget?
Well, she has it here, and that is 6.8.
That's the reason why, even though we're taking $2 million next year, we're only actually reducing the balance by $500,000 because that money's coming back.
Right.
Well,
So
it's
then,
really not coming back.
Well,
It's just not going.
It hasn't been appropriated.
Right. But also, do you have for us a breakdown of the fund balance and where the money is? Because
What's in each fund balance account? So we started on July 1st, 2018. We had $7 million, $56,895 was our total fund balance. Of that, $3,350,000 is, these are approximate numbers, would be what we'd see at the end of 2019, would be our tax cert reserve. $176,000 is our ERS reserve. $192,000 is our EBALR reserve, and our at the end of 6/30/2019, $1.4 million would be our 4% unreserved, and there's a redistribution that has to take place. I don't have the exact numbers here, but that's basically the amounts that we have in those different funds, and we have some assigned for accounts payable and things like that.
and the tax cert was how much? I'm sorry.
That
3.3.
after this year and the payments that we had to make this year would be $3.3 million.
Okay.
$3,350,000. We used about $454,000 this year in tax cert funds.
is there a way to, that's maybe almost impossible, but is there a way to come up with an estimate of what could be expected over a period of time for the tax cert? I know from year to year it's very difficult.
No,
But maybe over a longer period of time, there's a trend. Like maybe over a 7-year term. Maybe it's very difficult because there's so many moving factors with appreciation, development, and what have you. But I think if there was a way to drill down on that a little bit. And I'm not suggesting take money from the tax cert, because I know we've discussed that before. But, you know, that's one thing that comes up in every finance budget committee meeting. We do have a large reserve in our fund balances. Maybe for some of these initiatives, we should consider it. So maybe like the one bus loop, it would be worth knowing that we could do that if it was required, would be worth it.
Well, the problem is with the tax cert reserve, from year to year, we don't know if it will be large business owners that settle and come back for refunds or small ones.
Right.
So some years we paid out as much as $750,000, $1 million, some years under $200,000. And
Right.
it's not based on any historical trend, it's just a matter of what comes up for settlement.
No, I get that, but even in a worst-case scenario, say you got hit with 753 years in a row, you still haven't you haven't removed you still have balance left.
Correct.
So, I mean, again, I'm not looking to do that, but I think if there's something that's that important that's proposed, I wouldn't be against spending some of that reserve to cover like the one bus loop,
But you
if
could-
it was necessary.
But you have to consider that the bus loop will be a cost that will be ongoing.
Ongoing.
Yes.
In the
I get
future.
it.
It won't be just for 1 year.
Is there a way we could put out, like Survey Monkey or something, where we can ask the parents if the buses were reinstated, would you put your child on the bus? Because there's no guarantee that, you know, and actually people, you know, now you have a routine, you're in a habit, that's maybe you're on your way to work, whatever works in your home. You know, I don't know if by reinstating the buses is a guarantee that it's going to help with the traffic.
I think we definitely could do a survey. We talked about that. We informally polled the parents. We have Mr. K out there, Mr. Morash. Our rough estimate, Michelle, was you probably can reduce the number of drop-offs and pickups by about 25 to 30%.
Which is significant.
Yeah, but that again, I say that was not a result of a survey, so certainly we could try to do something like that and see what kind of response we get.
Well, I guess, and I know some folks probably get frustrated when things change from year to year, but if it doesn't have the desired effect, I guess we could always go back to the two loop. So if we tried the one loop and it didn't really have any impact or any real help in that area, we could always go back, I guess. But I know folks get frustrated with back and forth, understandably.
Well, do we know if are the buses at capacity for two loops? I mean, have we looked at that? If we have people who are not using what's offered, I mean, are they full? Is it half empty for the first loop and then half for the second loop?
I think it varies depending on the bus, too.
Depends on the run, yeah.
Right.
Ridership, look, I believe if you decide to restore one loop, 8 buses, ridership will certainly increase. I think the question is by how much, and that may be hard to gauge.
Just a question, because you were saying the buses are annual, so for that late bus pickup that wants to be reinstated, would that include that with the 150? No, the late bus run?
The one that we
for the
do
extra-
for the end of the day, for the
Yeah.
extra help, that's already included in our regular transportation.
Okay.
cost. That's a separate bus that we run.
But the way I understood it when we worked on it, and correct me if this is, that we pay for the bus for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. That's how our contract is. So when the bus does one run for the middle school, high school in the morning, then the buses sit and wait until they can then do the elementary school run. So there's a period of time where we're paying for the buses and they're lined up here. They're just waiting to do the next run. So it was a way of actually utilizing the time. And it was also the understanding at the time of the board when when we made these changes, you know, it was a big concern that the students would be too much downtime and what would they be doing. And we were assured at the time that, you know, it would be structured. And so I'm not sure what's going on there and what the students are doing in the meantime. And
I can tell you, Michelle, so I misspoke earlier because I said, I apologize, Cynthia, that you could run the buses 10 times. That's not accurate. But within that 2-hour window, if you could run them 3 or 4 times,
Right.
that would be fine. At Cottle, they're in the auditorium. It's not ideal, simply because, for a young child to be focusing all day long, and children need movement, to be in a crowded auditorium that's noisy. It's not quite enough to focus on homework and reading necessarily. I mean, you will see some children doing that, but also we can't let them run around and get rid of some of that extra energy because it's not safe, although that would also be a good option for them. The staff does a fabulous job of maintaining, control, but it's a long day for a child. And so that's what's happening here at the middle high school. Our students, of course, are more mature. We do have the library open in the morning. Some will come here and do some homework or studying. And some will just settle in.
Most of the concerns really have come from the elementary school. From the middle school, high school, I have actually heard from parents who like the extra time. Maybe their student is taking advantage of it, going for some extra help, or and they're not, they're not as worried about them getting home and that sense of anxiousness. I also do, I can. It's quality of life issue, where you're worried about your child being. But I mean, are there other options for the students other than having them all come to the auditorium? Could they move into different classrooms? Couldn't they stay in the classroom? I don't know the timing.
That all requires staffing.
But we're staffing anyway in the auditorium.
And on the buses.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but in other words, if you want to give them different options, you have
Right.
to have a person or two people in each location. And then the teachers tend to settle into their rooms in the morning, set up for lessons. There are limited options, and it's something. The other from the secondary, what I've heard from the PPLT, particularly at the high school and the middle school, I think the early pickup, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, is at 6:50 a.m.,
That's right.
which is our first pickup, which people are saying are very, that's early for, and that, part of that is because of the loop system. Probably could delay that by 15 or 20 minutes, not by that long, but that has come up as well. So I think certainly people would prefer the convenience of one loop. I know the district-wide, the administration prefers that. That's their recommendation, just for management, for safety, for oversight, considering students, who need to move and however, there is 175,000, and that's significant.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's any real clear answer to this, but again, I think it was worth at least putting before the board for some public discussion, because it's come up now for a few years.
The 175 is net of the changes for staff as well?
Yeah.
It is, yes.
Yes.
Lee, just real quick, on the slide that shows the main budget drivers, my quick math is right. It counts for about 1.1 million of the 1.5 million increase. The other 400,000. What do you think that is roughly? I'm
It's
kind of being
small
lazy here
pieces
because
that I
you
didn't-
gave us the breakdown. I'm being lazy.
And I don't have those all broken out, but if you want, I can take a look at
Is
some more.
there
smaller
one
ones.
kind of primary driver in your mind? Is it mostly probably salary increases or personnel? Most likely.
Since 80% of our budget is salary,
Right.
it's mostly because we've had step increases, things like that.
Right. And one last question I have, I know I have to move on to other things, but is there anything that we're taking away? Is there anything we're dropping? We always talk about what we're increasing, but is there anything that we would deem to be not needed anymore that we could do away with? Is there anything there in the budget?
Mm-hmm. There is a position at Cottle that's being reduced by 0.7. It was a special area staff member, and the STEAM program will be in lieu of that. So there was a reduction there. I believe there's no reduction in civil service staff. There's an increase to custodial staff. We're proposing, but again, there's more square footage, so there is not
Very little
much in the
reduction.
way of reduction.
Okay. All right. We're good.
Okay. All right. A lot to consider. Any other questions? Cynthia, anything? Rob?
Nope.
Dodge, anything? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Lee. I'm sure we will
Thank you,
have
Lee.
more questions for you before we meet again to discuss the budget. The next meeting for the budget is April, is it the 8th?
Pull it out. I'm looking on the slide.
13th. 4/8.
April,
4/8. Budget review. according to this, 40.
April 8th. Okay, so for the board, any questions or anything else that comes to you, let's get that to Lee before the 8th, and then we can discuss it at the workshop on the 8th. Okay, all right, we're going to move on with the agenda. Okay. Approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Daj, second. P, discussion. Is there anything there anyone wanted to talk about? Nope. Okay. All in favor? Okay, we're going to move on to business of the board. Adopt strategic plan goals. Resolve to adopt the 2019-22 strategic goals as outlined in the attached. Okay, we've had much discussion about this. And, Carl, I'm glad that we held off a little bit because with the budget discussions and the workshop we had, I think it's really given us all a good time, a lot of time to understand it and really think about the comprehensive plan. And we're all really very excited about it. Does anyone else have anything else they wanted to add about that? No. Okay. All in favor? Oh, I didn't what?
Motion and second.
Motion. Daj, second. Pete, discussion. I already asked for that. All in favor? Okay. Number 2, create a new club. Resolve to create the following new student club for the 2018-19 school year with advisor stipend at the all clubs class advisors amount as indicated in the TTA extra pay scale Appendix F AV club. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Pete, discussion.
I just want to thank Mr. Garufi and Mr. Trahey. I guess they're going to be running the club, so thank you to them for proposing it and stepping up to run it.
All in favor? Number 3, approve a merger. Resolve that the board hereby approves the March 18th, 2019 agreement which sets forth the terms and conditions between the district and the Bronxville School District for merging the girls' softball team for the purpose of allowing Bronxville students to participate in the Tuckahoe girls' softball program for the 2019-20 school year in the interscholastic athletic program. Is there a motion? Pete, second. Rob, discussion.
I'll just say thank you to Bronxville. For many years, they've allowed Tuckahoe athletes to compete, and this is the first time, well, actually the second time that we have been able to reciprocate, and we do appreciate the relationship that we have.
I'm sorry, Carl, is this for every level or just varsity?
I believe just varsity, Dosh.
All right, thank you.
All in favor? Number 4, approve a merger. Resolve to approve an agreement which sets forth the terms and conditions between the district and the Bronxville School District for merging JV and varsity girls swimming for the 2019-20 school year. Is there a motion? Rob? Second. Cynthia? Discussion?
I think Austin deserves credit for continuing to try and find different programs for our student athletes, and the fact that he is willing to go back and work with Bronxville, I think, is a testament to what he's done over the last few years. So I think I'd like to give Mr. Goldberg some recognition for that.
All in favor? Number 5, approve a merger. Resolve to approve an agreement which sets forth the terms and conditions between the district and the Bronxville School District for merging modified and varsity hockey for the 2019-20 school year. Is there a motion? Dodge, second. Pete, discussion. I did want to say in the years past it was a merger with Bronxville and Eastchester. And are there enough students for a hockey team with just us and Bronxville? Or is this, are we just doing this and then we'll see if the students are going to participate? Because I know that financially this was a big commitment. I'm wondering if Eastchester has backed out because of the finances.
Michelle, you're correct. It was all 3 districts, and I'm sorry that I do not have an answer this evening. I certainly can get that information from Mr. Goldberg.
I would like to know what the costs are, because I know that over the years it's gotten very costly because of the ice time. And I would just like to know how many of our students are participating and what the cost would be per student for that. But that's me. I mean, if you guys want to go forward, it's up to you.
You're asking for.
I just want to hold off. Yeah, just to know. When is hockey season?
We have time.
Okay.
It's early.
Just want to make sure.
It's
I
early.
don't want to.
Well, although, I mean, yeah, the things
I'm sure they want to know if we're going forward,
yes,
right,
Yeah,
yes,
Bronxville's
yes.
looking, but we certainly could reach out and ask them to be patient. One more meeting so I can get you the information that you're asking for. Per athlete, it is very expensive. So happy to provide that.
Okay, so can we just table that till our next meeting? Do I need a motion to table? Okay, is there a motion to table? Pete, second. Cynthia, all in favor? Okay, I think we just have 3 votes there, right? Okay. Okay, number 6, extend an agreement. Resolve to extend an agreement with Management Advisory.
Is it a nay or is it an abstention on the other?
No, they voted, well, they didn't raise their hand, so I think that's a
is
no.
that- so
Okay,
you need to do it.
all in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. Extend an agreement. Resolve to extend an agreement with Management Advisory Group for the period of March 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019 in the amount not to exceed $3,333 a month. Is there a motion? Pete, second. Daj, discussion?
I'll just say that Management Advisory Group is our interim treasurer service. Since Faith was on maternity leave and then also has left the district, Faith Sparks, we need to have a treasurer, and they're fulfilling that need. And I just wanted to extend them until we have a new treasurer on board, and then also for the interim transition.
Okay. All in favor? Number 7, extend an agreement. Resolve to extend an agreement with, is it Noraki and Smith LLP for bookkeeping services for the period of March 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019 at a cost of $125 per hour, not to exceed $30,000. Is there a motion? Daj, second. Pete, discussion?
Again, I'd like to say here that Naraki Smith is an external or an audit firm from Long Island that was providing us with temporary bookkeeping services, also to fill in for our treasury. I really don't expect that we'll need to do anything else at the moment going forward. I can pretty much handle the basic needs in the bookkeeping side in the department until we get someone on board. It was just an extension of the contract, just excuse me, in case we did need some services. And the $30,000 is high. We could amend that if you prefer.
Well, what would you recommend?
$5,000.
$5,000, okay. Motion to amend. Daj, second. Pete, all in favor? Thank you, Lee. Number 8, declare emergency with respect to the hot water heating system. Oh, Lord. Do I need to read that?
I'm sorry.
Whereas on or about January 21st, 2019, the Tuckahoe Union Free School District discovered that heat was not reaching the new wing of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School, and through an investigation of this condition sometime thereafter, a major leak was discovered in the pipes of the hot water heating system that were under the concrete slab of the first floor corridor of the new wing of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School. And whereas the leaking pipes of the hot water heating system are interfering with the school district's ability to efficiently and effectively heat this section of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School without flooding water into the main student corridor of this wing. And whereas the school district staff has only been able to continue to heat the new wing of the Tuckahoe Middle School and High School by manually manipulating the hot water heating system, and doing so in a manner that seeks to minimize leaks from the system into the main student corridor of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School. And whereas it is necessary to expedite repair and or replace an emergency basis of the leaking pipes of the hot water system of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School in order to provide adequate heat to the school building during the remainder of this heating season and to avoid flooding and water damage to the main student corridor of the first floor of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School. And whereas on March 13th, 2019, the school district discovered that one of the boilers of the Tuckahoe Middle School High School has failed, and requires replacement, which leaves a single boiler to heat this school. And whereas it is necessary to expedite replacement of the failed boiler in the Tuckahoe Middle School and High School in order to have a fully operational heating system in time for the start of the 2019-20 school year. And whereas the school district has reached out to 3 of heating and plumbing contractors for proposals to repair and to replace the leaking pipes of the hot water heating system, and to date, only 1 contractor has provided a proposal, Joe Lombardo Plumbing and Heating, who has estimated the cost of the repair and replacement of the leaking pipes to be $54,050. However, additional carpentry expenses to open and cover the rerouted hot water heating pipes is anticipated. And whereas the school district has asked its architect to design the work required to replace the failed boiler of the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School, and plans to competitively bid this work when the design and specifications for it are available. And now, therefore, be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the General Municipal Law, the Board of Education, Law 1034, the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby finds and determines that a public emergency exists with respects to the leaking pipes of the hot water heating system of the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School that has arisen out of the unforeseen occurrence or condition, and repair of the hot water heating pipes is immediately necessary in order to protect the health and safety of students and staff who occupy the school building and therefore cannot await competitive bidding. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education hereby determines that the cost to repair and or replace the leaking pipes and replace the failed boiler of the hot water heating system of the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School constitute ordinary contingent expenses because such pipes repairs and boiler replacement are necessary to preserve the school district's property and assure the health and safety of its students and staff. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the expenditure funds not to exceed $70,000 from unassigned fund balance to repair and or replace the leaking pipes of the hot water heating system at Tuckahoe Middle School, High School. And be it further resolved that the President of the Board and the Superintendent of Schools are hereby authorized to independently and individually enter into a contract with Joe Lombardo Plumbing and Heating to repair and or replace the leaking pipes of the hot water heating system of the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School at the cost not to exceed $58,000, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes and directs the Assistant Superintendent for Business to advertise for bids for the equipment and public work necessary to replace the boiler in the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School as soon as the design and specifications for it are available. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the expenditure of funds from unassigned fund balance to replace the failed boiler at the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School, and the amount of such expenditure shall be determined by the contract awarded after receipt of bids for the necessary equipment and work to implement and replacement. And be it further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools and Assistant Superintendent for Business are hereby authorized and empowered to individually take all necessary and appropriate steps to secure on an expedited basis repair and or replace of the leaky pipes of the hot water heating system and the equipment and public work required to replace the boiler in the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School. And be it further resolved that any and all actions heretofore taken by any school district employees and officials in furtherance of this resolution are ratified and confirmed. Okay. Is there a motion? Pete, second. Don, discussion?
I have just a quick question. So I would imagine the repair work would not be something that we were contemplating as part of the facility upgrades for the capital project. But if I recall, I thought the boiler replacement was on the list of potential facility improvements from the capital project. Is that
was on the
true?
original list of our larger bond project, but it was taken out of that
It was.
for the reduced amount that we put out to the public.
Okay.
We were considering putting it in an energy performance contract. However, that was under the assumption that we could manage to run the plant as it was through the time that we would start that project. Now that we've reached a critical time that it failed, we have to go forward and do it ourselves. The only bright side to that equation is that the district then gets to basically, with an energy performance contract, we would have given the savings to pay for the project. Now instead, we will keep the savings, and that's typically in the district's favor to keep all the savings as opposed to paying management fees on top of it.
Do we receive any state aid for an improvement like this?
Yes, because we're declaring it this way, we can receive state aid.
How much?
Our state aid building ratio is
24.
about 25% approximately, and that's paid out over probably 15 years.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So this resolution is asking for the funding to to make the repairs right now, and then also to go out to bid.
It's
For
two
the boiler.
projects. So the first project we need to do immediately because we can't provide heat adequately to the new wing. And that one, we say that we're not going to go out to bid. We'll take the one proposal that we got from a contractor that we have competitively bid, and we'll do that immediately. The other one, we have a little bit more time because we have one boiler still working. There's a concern that if that boiler goes, then we are without heat entirely in the district. So it's still an emergency project, but we do have a little bit more time since it appears to be working well, that we can go out to competitively bid that piece, and that's a larger cost.
Okay, so when we have those bids,
I would bring them back
you
to
will
the
bring
board.
it back. Yeah, because the way this is written here, that would sort of authorize the expenditure to replace it, but we're really not authorizing that now because you're going to bring the bids back to us.
Right, but it does allow us to use regular, ordinary, general contingency funds as opposed to having to use capital funds to do the project, which we don't have available.
So do we estimate what that would cost?
We've gotten a few estimates, and they're all over the place. It could be anywhere from $100,000 to $750,000. I don't believe it'll be anywhere near $750,000, but we do need to go out and get the designs made up by the architect and then go out and bid them.
So you're just asking us for the authorization because I would assume they want to know that we're going to allow you to use the money before you go out to bid. Okay.
Right.
All right. Everyone understands that? Okay.
Yes.
Where we're at? Okay. Very good. All in favor? Okay. Number 9, SECRA Type 2 action. Whereas the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District is planning to replace the boiler and repair and replace certain hot water heating system pipes in Tuckahoe Middle School, High School, and whereas the project is subject to classification under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas in Section 617.5, the SECRA regulations define Type 2 actions to be actions that have no significant impact on the environment and require no further review under SECRA, and whereas the Board has reviewed the components, phases, and aspects of the project, and whereas the Board has found the project consists of maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in an existing structure or facility, replacement or rehabilitation or construction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site. Routine activities of educational institutions, including expansion of existing facilities by less than 10,000 square feet of gross floor area, and/or emergency actions that are immediately necessary to preserve the building and protect the students and staff members who use the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School, which actions shall be performed to cause the least change or disturbance practicable under the circumstance to the environment. And whereas the project qualifies as a Type 2 action as defined in the regulations promulgated by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and known as the State Environmental Quality Review, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby determines that project is a Type 2 action pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5C1, 2, 10, and or 42, and that no further environmental review is required. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Discussion.
This resolution was crafted by Stephanie Burns, our attorney, and it's required based on the previous resolution that we did, and she believes that it qualifies under all those categories.
Very good. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to personnel. 1, accept personnel recommendations. Resolve to accept personnel action items A through J as outlined below. Is there anything there, Carl, that you wanted to add about anything here?
I'd like to speak about two people. The first is we are accepting the resignation for the purpose of retirement for Ms. Deborah Arena. Debbie has been in our district for 17 years, working in our personnel department. She is the epitome of a professional. Debbie is a team player. She will be sorely missed. She's always willing to step in for a colleague, to stay late, to do whatever it takes to support the district and the staff in the district. So she will be missed. However, this is not a firm goodbye because we anticipate that it may take some time for civil service to assign a title to this vacancy and then going to a list. There is quite a process that we have to go through. So you'll also notice that Debbie Arena, we're placing her on the per diem substitute list. So she will stay with us. She's agreed to help us kind of bridge that gap. She's very familiar with all of our personnel operations, and we appreciate that while we search for a replacement. The second person I'd like to speak about, you may notice there is someone in our audience here. And let me just pull up your resume, Lindsay. So Lindsay Rose Musgrave is here because the board is considering appointing her as the treasurer in our business office. Lindsay has a very, very strong background. She has an MBA in accounting. She has just completed her master's degree and I know is pursuing her CPA. She was vetted. There was a competitive pool of candidates. Miss Lou ran this search and strongly recommends her. I met Lindsay last week, and I must say I was quite impressed, and we are very confident in making this recommendation to the board. And if the board accepts our recommendation, we certainly can invite her up so you can meet her.
Great. Okay, is there a motion on the personnel?
A couple of quick
Go
ones. I saw that Thomas Cruz, I guess we're rescinding his appointment to JV girls softball, and then he's appointed to modified boys baseball. Was there not someone appointed to modified baseball back when all the baseball and softball? I could not find one.
There's two for modified baseball.
There's two. So he's going to be a second, taking a second position.
I think Austin's comments was because of the pitch count. We had one last year also.
But Michelle is correct, Rob. Austin sent a memo in. This is the same model as last year. There was a new requirement, this pitch count.
Right.
So in addition to helping, we have large numbers for modified, but in addition to assisting with the modified program, he'll be working with the entire baseball program all the way through up to varsity, making sure that the pitch count requirement is implemented properly.
In stipends, we're appointing Mr. Trahey as the club advisor for the AV club, but I see that Mr. Garufi is not there.
I don't believe he put in for it.
He's just going to do it pro bono help?
Yes. He helped. Rob, I think the thinking behind that is all of our events, our students will be getting involved with the video and audio part of it. Mr. Groofy is, like, for example, our play. He's in the pit with the band.
He's there already.
So he's there performing the music portion of it. So Mr. Trahey will be working directly with the students.
Okay. And then the last one, if with Lindsay joining us now, are we going to continue with the management advisory group through the end of the year?
Not necessarily through the end of the year. I was just thinking perhaps a month or two just for the transition to make sure that we are covering all the required reporting that we need to do.
Thank you.
Okay, did we motion on the personnel?
No.
Okay, is there a motion? Dodge, second. Pete, discussion. Rob already made some comments. Anybody else? No? Okay, all in favor?
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good luck to you, Lindsay.
Say a quick hello.
Yeah.
Shake hands.
Good luck to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
It's a perfect meeting for you to be appointed. Heard all our financials.
It's a long one. Yeah. It's probably torture.
She's like, oh no.
Okay, this
She
is
didn't
now the
walk out,
second
so we're good.
recognition of the audience, and being that it looks like we've lost everybody, that's going to be it for tonight. We will meet again April 8th for our budget workshop. If anyone has any questions on tonight's presentation on the budget, please let us know. Any of your comments or suggestions or concerns are greatly appreciated, especially now when we're trying to make these difficult decisions. And we are now going to go back into executive session.